considering how long it's been since you shot the movie. It must be such a nice feeling that's actually finally coming out.
Yeah, my film was in COVID isolation. That's what I've been saying to everyone. It was in COVID isolation for 2 years. And now finally the bat rats are released from their isolation. Yeah, it's surreal, but I mean, it feels amazing because, like a lot of people that made films just in the run up to the pandemic, I was really worried that it would never get released. And it's been the years that go into making a piece of work like this, particularly like a debut piece of work, are just enormous amounts of work and energy. And so the feeling that they might just never get released was a pretty sad feeling. So yeah, I'm very happy.
Yeah, it sounds like it must have been kind of stressful, I guess, kind of, as you say, not knowing what was going on with it all being so uncertain. Like, did you take any time to kind of go back and work on the film some more in the time that you've had, or do you just kind of want to think, no, it's done, I'm just going to leave it as it is?
No, it was in Sundance, so it had a festival. It was in festivals, played already. So yeah, I mean, it was sort of almost immediately released in America, but by then we were well into the pandemic. So no, the film was locked, finished, totally kind of done. Yeah.
Gosh, if anything, that must be even stranger than knowing it's come out in some places but not others, and you're just sort of waiting and waiting and waiting until it can finally come out over here.
Yeah, and the release in America was like really badly, affected by the sort of circumstances of the pandemic. So that was challenging as well, because obviously that would have been a potential place I might have gone to be able to go and support the film and introduce audiences to it, and obviously that was completely out of the question. So that was strange, because it was kind of on in some cities and I did some press to support it, but it was all on Zoom and there was no real sort of connection with the life of the film. Whereas this, obviously, I will be doing Q&As and events and I'll get to meet people and kind of gauge their experiences of watching it. And so yeah, it will be much more what I think is supposed to happen when you make a film.
Yeah. And have you actually had the chance, have you personally had a chance to see it with an audience yet, or is that still kind of to come?
Yeah, I saw it with an audience at Sundance, but like the festival audiences are quite strange, I think, particularly in places like that, because it's full of buyers and it's about the kind of marketable life of the film afterwards. So I mean, obviously there are people there that just come and see the films, but it can be a mixture of different people. But subsequently there's been a couple of screenings, like we've got I did Fright Fest, so the film was in Fright Fest in October, and obviously that was an audience, like a real audience, so that was amazing to do a Q&A there. And then on Friday we have our first kind of ticketed preview at the BFI, so then I will actually have to answer for the film. I can't wait. It's going to be great.
Yeah, it's nice to have, I guess, that sort of thing to look forward to finally.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there is a real sort of advantage to having had this break in time, which is we'd obviously did Q&As at Sundance, but I'd only recently I finished the film. That was it. We had to wait. I mean, I had to wait a while because we finished the film in like the summer of 2019. Then we had to wait for it to be in Sundance. It was already been 6 months. But I was, the sort of, you don't really have any distance from the film still, I think, and I was still quite tapped into the whole kind of like, well, will people like it? Is it good? And with more time that passes and hopefully with more experience, you just realize, I think, what a kind of irrelevance that question is for a director, how you really shouldn't be thinking about that at all. You should be just completely tapped into your relationship with the film. Is it what you wanted to make? Is it, a success on your terms? And so I think, the benefit of this break in time has meant that as it's coming out here and being reviewed here, like I feel much more emotionally detached from that, and hopefully more kind of circumspect in a good way about all of that noise that surrounds it. Not noise that's sort of demeaning it, like I mean it's important for the audience, but how much it's important for you is is a different thing.
I mean, I guess kind of on that note, in terms of like your relationship personally to the movie, like where did the kind of original idea of this come from? What was it about the story that sort of, I guess, just inspired you in the first place?
I had a sort of strange experience writing it, because I'd written a kind of number of screenplays that had all felt sort of to a sort of greater or lesser extent much more kind of in the wheelhouse of the work that I'd made as an actor. And you know, although I love horror films, I'd never worked in that space as an actor, so maybe it wasn't the place I was sort of naturally drawn to just because of that, you know. And then somebody said, you know, you should have a go, because like if you like horror films, and I really do, and I'm always very enthusiastic about them, like seeing them and talking about them with friends and stuff, you should have a go at writing one. So I did, and I think I was pregnant at the time, so that, you know, the idea of kind of physical transformation and the kind of pain of birth is quite sort of present in the film. Also, I had read, just totally coincidentally, read a book about the manhunt for Slobodan Milosevic just before. So I think, I mean, it was pre-Me Too when I wrote it, but I mean, I've been quite Me Too for like a long time. Like pre-Me Too, I was quite Me Too. So I was already kind of quite tied in, quite psychologically occupied with the idea of how men and women live alongside each other and love and operate, you know, given the context of the history of their relationships and the present of their relationships. So I think, you know, when it came to doing a writing exercise that felt quite free form, you know, I just sat down to write a horror film. I didn't have any kind of particular idea. These kind of sort of deeper sort of psychological things kind of came out in the story.
I mean, kind of as you were kind of touching on there, you do go to some sort of quite like heavy places, and it is a quite intense watch this movie. So like, what was the atmosphere like on set? Did you kind of feel the need to just sort of try and keep it light and just all relax at the end of the day? Were you able to sort of leave that stuff at the door when you left, or does it kind of hang over you a bit?
No, I think I probably directed the actors in the way that I would choose to be directed. So I have no real interest in method acting myself as an actor. I think sometimes it can be quite abusive. Like, so I tend to treat the actors very much as collaborators, which is the way I like to be treated. So you talk about the story and you hold the story kind of between you. Do you know what I mean? You're not like, you know, manipulating puppets who have no sort of control or energy. So I talked a lot with the actors. I think that the atmosphere on the set was not super light because the story didn't really kind of lend itself to that. But hopefully it felt, you know, very democratic. I mean, that's the idea, is that, you know, that everybody on set is telling a story. Everybody has a role to play in the kind of telling of that story. And we hopefully had a lot of dialogue and discussion. I mean, it was quite hard to make the film, you know, so it wasn't without like stress, because, you know, we shot it in 5 weeks, you know, there are a lot of practical effects, you know, it wasn't a massive budget film, so, you know, it was challenging. But, you know, I think it's also a great testament to the actors that I had, that even though the subject matter feels dark and often sort of painful, that we were able to kind of hold it, I hope, at some sort of distance while we were making the work, and it didn't feel sort of overwhelmingly awful to people. Yeah.